The outer edge of the Milky Way had always been quiet space. For 300 years, the Galactic Council species the Vrix, the Theron, the Cold, and a dozen others had treated the spiral arm where Sol once sat as a dead zone. Their long-range probes had confirmed it generations ago. The tiny yellow star's third planet was a scorched cinder, its orbiting battle station shattered, and its fleeing colony ships torn apart by the very enemies humanity had tried to outrun. The consensus of sentience had officially closed the file on terra firma to centuries before, marking it as a cautionary tale of a species that grew too fast, fought too hard, and burned to bright dot. So when the long-range sensor array at Station Theta 9, a cold-operated listening post near the galactic core, pinged with an anomalous return, the lone Theron technician on night shift almost dismissed it as background radiation. The object was massive, slow, and impossibly old. Its heat signature was near absolute zero, its hull composition matched nothing in the Council's database, and its trajectory was a straight line from the direction of the long-dead Sol system. The Theron, whose name was Vex, reported it to his superior with a shrug. "Probably a rogue asteroid or a derelict from the old wars," he said. "Do you want me to flag it for the Salvage Guild?" His superior, a grizzled Vrix named Commander Yolix, looked at the data and felt a cold sensation crawl down his neural stalks. He had been a young officer during the last great conflict with a minor upstart species called the Iran. He had seen what real weaponry looked like. And reading this bizarre combination of dense metal alloys, residual radiation patterns that didn't match any known power source, and a silhouette that his computer kept refusing to identify smelled wrong. "Send a scout drone," Yolix ordered. "Full spectral. I want to know what's inside that shadow." The drone reached the object 72 standard hours later. What it saw stripped away 300 years of certainty. The object was a vessel. Not a cargo hauler, not a science ship, but a warship of a design so ancient, and yet so brutally efficient that the drone's AI had to cross-reference 7 extinct languages before spitting out a translation. For the faded letters stenciled across its bow, UNS Retribution. And underneath that, in smaller, angrier script, "We return." The Retribution was a monstrosity. It measured just under 4 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull a patchwork of armor plating that looked like it had been welded in desperate haste. Half of its surface was scarred by plasma burns, kinetic impact craters, and what appeared to be claw marks from some unimaginably large beast. But it was not derelict. The drone's passive sensors picked up low-level energy fluctuations from within power cycling, life support humming, and something else. Something rhythmic. Too structured to be random. A heartbeat, maybe. Or a countdown. Commander Yolix watched the feed from his command center, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. He had expected debris. He had expected a tomb. Instead, the Retribution fired its maneuvering thrusters cold, precise, and undeniably intentional and adjusted its course. Not toward the galactic core. Not toward the nearest trade route. Toward Station Theta-9. Lix opened a priority channel to the Council capital world, Korthos. "This is not a drill," he sent. "The humans are coming back. And they are not coming in peace." He did not know how right he was. The message reached Korthos in less than an hour, and within 6 hours, every major species in the Galactic Council had heard the news. Panic spread faster than light. The Vrix military command, known for its stoicism, held an emergency session that lasted 12 minutes before concluding that the returning human vessel was either a ghost or a trap. The Theron, who had always respected humanity's engineering prowess, began reinforcing their border stations. The Cold, a species of pragmatic traders, quietly sold their shares in Outer Rim security firms and invested in deep-core bunker construction, but it was the smaller species who felt the real terror. The Iran, who had only achieved spaceflight centuries ago, remembered the old human broadcasts that had reached their world before the fall broadcasts filled with music, war documentaries, and something called action movies. They had thought humanity was a myth. Now they prayed it was. The Retribution did not hurry. It cruised through Council space at a leisurely 1/4 light speed, its course as straight and unyielding as an arrow. Every time a Council patrol ship approached to investigate, the human vessel would do one of 3 things: nothing. Fire a single warning shot that passed close enough to singe the patrol's shields, or broadcast a short, looping message on all frequencies. The message was the same every time. In every language the Council's translation matrices could handle. We are the survivors of Sol. We are the orphans of Earth. We have crossed the void not to conquer, but to reclaim. Stand aside, or stand condemned. The Council debated. They argued. They postured. Some factions, led by a hawkish Vrix admiral named Kor, wanted to destroy the Retribution before it reached anything important. Others, including most Theran diplomats, urged caution. They pointed out that the human ship had not fired on anyone first. They pointed out that its weapons appeared to be powered down between warning shots. They pointed out that, for all its terrifying presence, it was just one ship. Then the Retribution arrived at its destination. The Council had assumed the vessel was heading for their capital world. They were wrong. It bypassed Korthos entirely, ignored the major trade hubs, and made straight for a region of space that had been considered worthless for centuries, the Demeter Nebula. Inside that swirling cloud of dust and ionized gas lay something that the Council had long forgotten: an abandoned human orbital stronghold known as the Aegis Ring, 3 centuries ago, during humanity's final war against a mysterious enemy called the Scourge. The Aegis Ring had been Earth's last line of defense. A massive, donut-shaped battle station with enough firepower to crack a small moon. It had been left behind when humanity fled, its reactors cold, its guns silent, its corridors empty. The Council had surveyed the ring twice in the intervening centuries. Both times, they found nothing of value. The station was dead, they reported, a relic, a tomb. They were wrong again. As the Retribution drew within 1,000,000 kilometers of the Aegis Ring, something inside the ancient station stirred. Power conduits that had been dark for 300 years hummed back to life. Reactor cores that had been scavenged by automated repair drones that had somehow kept working all this time reignited with a deep, resonant thrum. And then the ring began to turn. Slowly at first, then faster, its outer section rotating to generate artificial gravity and, more importantly, to aim its main weapons array. Commander Yalix, who had followed the Retribution at a safe distance with a small task force, watched the feed from his bridge and felt his blood run cold. The Aegis Ring was not a relic. It was a chrysalis, and the thing emerging from it was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Aegis Ring's true purpose became horrifyingly clear over the next 72 hours. It was not merely a defensive station. It was a shipyard, a colossal, automated, self-replicating war foundry designed to build and deploy humanity's most devastating weapons. The Retribution docked with the Ring's central hub, and within hours, the station's assembly lines came alive. Plasma forges roared. Nanite swarms flowed like rivers of silver. And one by one, new ships began to take shape. They were not like the Retribution. They were smaller, sleeker, and deadlier. The Council's intelligence analysts, frantically sifting through old human databases they had looted centuries ago, identified the design as the Gladius-class interceptor. Each one was barely 200 meters long, crewed by a single pilot, and armed with a spinal-mounted mass driver that could accelerate a tungsten rod to a significant fraction of light speed. The rods themselves were simple, cheap, and utterly unstoppable. No shield in the galaxy could absorb that kind of kinetic energy. No hull could deflect it. Within a week, the Aegis Ring had produced 20 Gladius-class interceptors. Within a month, it had produced over 200. And all the while, the Retribution sat in its dock, silent and patient, broadcasting the same message on a loop. We offer one chance. Withdraw from all former human territories. Release any human artifacts in your possession. Do not interfere. Refuse, and you will learn why the Scourge feared us. The Council finally understood. The Scourge, the nameless, faceless enemy that had driven humanity from Earth 3 centuries ago, had not defeated them. Humanity had held the line long enough to escape, and in doing so, they had shown the Scourge something that made even that monstrous enemy retreat into the void between galaxies. The Council had assumed the Scourge left because it had one. Now they realized the truth. The Scourge left because it was afraid. Admiral Kor of the Vrix, never one to back down from a fight, assembled a strike force of 50 warships, the largest fleet the Council had mustered in a century, and launched a preemptive attack on the Aegis Ring. His reasoning was simple. Destroy the foundry before it could produce more ships. Capture the Retribution and end the human threat before it truly began. He broadcast his intentions across all channels, declaring that the Council would not be intimidated by the ghosts of a dead world. The Retribution's response was a single word: understood. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Admiral Kor's fleet approached the ring in a standard pincer formation, shields up, weapons hot. The Gladius interceptors launched from the ring in a swarm, moving with a coordination that no organic pilot could match. They were not drones, the Council realized with horror. They were semi-autonomous weapon platforms, each one linked to a central tactical AI that had been learning from every human war for the past 300 years. The interceptors did not fire their mass drivers immediately. Instead, they performed a maneuver that the Council's tactical computers could not even categorize. They accelerated directly toward the Vrix flagship, then, at the last possible second, split into 3 groups. One group went high, one went low. The third, the smallest group, went straight through the flagship shield gap, a flaw that the human AI had identified in less than a second. The mass drivers fired. 5 tungsten rods, each the size of a human forearm, struck the Vrix flagship's reactor core simultaneously. The ship detonated in a silent plume of light and debris, taking Admiral Kor and his entire command staff with it. The remaining 49 ships, leaderless and confused, tried to retreat. The interceptors did not pursue. They simply formed a perimeter around the ring and waited. The Council did not try again. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy learned to fear the Aegis Ring as something more than a weapon. It became a symbol, a reminder, a promise made of steel and fire. The human ships did not expand beyond the Demeter Nebula. They did not attack civilian populations. They did not demand tribute or territory. They simply sat there, in orbit around the ring, waiting. And that waiting was worse than any war. The Council's diplomats tried everything. They sent envoys, bearing gifts and apologies for the old sins of their ancestors. The Retribution accepted the gifts: rare minerals, cultural artifacts salvaged from human ruins, even a live specimen of an Earth-born cat that had been preserved in a Vrix zoo for centuries, but returned each envoy with the same message: we are not interested in diplomacy. We are interested in results. Surrender all human territory and artifacts. Do not test our patience. Some species complied immediately. The Iran, terrified of being caught in the crossfire, returned a dozen human cryopods they had been secretly reverse engineering. The Cold, ever practical, opened their vaults and handed over every piece of human technology they had hoarded, from ancient data slates to a partially functional FTL drive. Others resisted. A Theran colonial governor, proud and foolish, refused to return a human starship engine that his people had found drifting in space. He gave a speech about Theran sovereignty and not bowing to bullies. The next morning, a single Gladius interceptor entered Theran space, fired a warning shot through the governor's palace roof, killing no one, but destroying the building's main support beam and left. The engine was returned within the hour. The galaxy began to whisper, not about the humans' weapons, but about their patience, their restraint, their terrifying, calculated mercy. Every action they took was measured. Every warning was precise. They never killed when a demonstration would suffice. They never destroyed an entire ship when a single shot would turn it back. And that, more than anything, made them frightening, because it suggested that they were not acting out of rage or revenge. They were acting out of purpose. And a purposeful enemy is the most dangerous kind. Then the Retribution sent its final message. It was broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy, in every language, on every frequency. The message was short, calm, and final. We have recovered our dead. We have reclaimed our heritage. We have built our sword. Now we will go home. Earth is lost, but humanity is not. We will find a new world. We will rebuild. And we will remember which species helped us and which species hindered us. Do not follow us. Do not contact us. We will return when we are ready. Until then, fear the silence, because it is ours. The Retribution undocked from the Aegis Ring. The Gladius interceptors formed up around it in a protective sphere. And then, without fanfare or ceremony, the entire fleet jumped to FTL, heading toward a distant, unremarkable star that the Council had never bothered to name. The Aegis Ring remained behind. Its reactors powered down. Its guns fell silent. Its corridors became tombs once more. But this time, no Council survey team dared approach it. They left it alone, a monument to the terror that had briefly awakened, and then, mercifully, gone to sleep. Years passed, decades, a century. The Council rebuilt. They told themselves that the human incursion was a one-time event, a fluke of history, a ghost that had briefly haunted them and then vanished. They struck the old human territories from their maps. They pretended the Aegis Ring did not exist. They buried the memory of the retribution under layers of bureaucracy and denial, but they never forgot. On Korthos, the council's capital, a small museum opened in the basement of the diplomatic quarter. It was called the Human Artifact Repository, and it was where the council stored every piece of human technology they had not been forced to return. Most of it was junk, broken data drives, scraps of armor, a single preserved human hand in a jar of formaldehyde. But one exhibit drew crowds every day. It was a recording, taken from a Theran patrol ship's black box, of the last transmission the Retribution sent before it jumped away. The recording was audio only. A human voice, calm and deep, speaking in the old Terran language that no one in the council could fully translate. But the emotional subroutines in the translator software picked up something unmistakable. Not anger, not triumph, not even warning, hope. "This is Captain Elias Vance of the UNS Retribution," the voice said. "To whoever finds this message, we are not monsters. We are not conquerors. We are parents, children, lovers, and fools. We are the ones who ran so that the next generation could stand. Earth is ash. Our enemy is gone. But we remain. And we will always remain. Do not fear us. Fear the silence that follows us. Because it means we are still out there, watching, waiting, hoping that one day we will not need to return." The museum's visitors would listen to that message, shiver, and then go back to their lives. But late at night, when the diplomatic quarter was empty and the stars shone through the city's atmospheric dome, some of them would look up at the sky and wonder, was humanity really gone? Had they found their new world? And if they had, what were they building there? Deep in the Demeter Nebula, the Aegis Ring continued to drift. Its reactors were cold. Its guns were silent. But its passive sensors, powered by a trickle of energy from a backup battery that should have died 100 years ago, remained active. And every night, they scanned the stars, waiting for a signal, waiting for a return. Waiting for the day when the lost Earth vessel would reappear again, and on that day, the galaxy would remember why humanity's orbital stronghold was the ultimate terror. Not because of its weapons, not because of its ships, but because of what it represented, a species that refused to die. A species that learned to survive. A species that, no matter how many times you pushed it down, would always get back up. The council told themselves that humanity was gone. They told themselves that the threat had passed. They told themselves that the Retribution was just a ship, and the Aegis Ring was just a station. And the humans were just a memory. They told themselves those things every single day, and every single night. They dreamed of tungsten rods falling from the sky.